Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I'm a TV reviewer and professional calibrator. In this video, I'm going to compare the picture quality of LG's and Panasonic's 2018 OLED TVs, namely the LG E8 on my right and the Panasonic FZ952 or FZ950 on my left. I know what you're thinking. Vincent, get your ass out of the way so we can look at the pictures on these TVs. Well, there's a reason I filmed this video in this manner. Too many of you are judging picture quality of televisions in my previous comparison videos just by looking at your screen or even mobile phone, which is likely uncalibrated, despite me warning that it's unwise to do that because of the TV's off-axis color shifts and the fact that no consumer camera can completely and accurately capture the full dynamic range of these televisions. So, this is the ultimate sacrifice I have to make, shoving my ugly mug in your face to remind you that you can't judge picture quality solely from looking at a YouTube video. I'm trying my best here to report my findings, so please listen to what I say. So, both the LG E8 and the Panasonic FZ952 we are comparing today are 65 inches in screen size and have been updated to their respective latest firmware version at the time I filmed this video in November 2018. 4.10.05 on the LG E8 and 3.074 on the Panasonic FZ952. Both displays have been calibrated to the common standards used within the film and broadcast industry to maintain a level playing field. For SDR, this means D65 white point, BT1886 gamma, and Rec 709 colors, whereas for HDR, the same D65 white point is used, but with ST2084 PQEOTF and Rec 2020 color gamut. Before I move on to talk about the actual results, I want to thank UK electrical retailer Crampton & Moore for sponsoring this video. I've worked with the team at Crampton & Moore for a long time, and they have occasionally been kind enough to loan me TVs to review, TVs that maybe certain manufacturers are reluctant to send to me due to my honest and transparent reviewing methodology. So, if you are thinking about getting a new television, please consider buying it from Crampton & Moore. Call 0113 244 6607 and speak to David for good impartial advice and the best price. Thank you very much for your support. Right, most 2018 OLED TVs, including the LG OLED 65E8 and the Panasonic TX-65FZ952B, use the same WRGB OLED panel from LG Display, so it's going to be the underlying processing that separates different TV brands when it comes to picture quality. The Panasonic FZ952 is still the king of color accuracy, even though the LG E8 ran it very close as it has ever been between these two brands. Now, of course, LG has started to offer 3D LUT Autocal in conjunction with portrait displays on its 2018 OLED televisions, but I still prefer to calibrate manually because with my manual calibration, I can achieve smoother gradation, especially near blacks, and also back up the calibrated settings to send a copy to my customers in case their TV is accidentally reset. By the way, if you are based in the UK and your 2018 LG OLED TV has been calibrated by another calibrator using Autocal, feel free to contact me using the link in the YouTube description below, and I'll be happy to drop by and check whether your TV's gradation has been affected by Autocal at no charge the next time I'm calibrating near your area. Just fill in the form in the YouTube description below and I'll get back in touch with you. Next, motion. Both TVs can present SDR, that's standard dynamic range, 24 frames per second movies without telescenic judder, without needing interpolated smoothing. Should you choose to use interpolation, both the LG E8 and the Panasonic FZ952 allow for customization that can increase motion resolution to the OLED ceiling of 650 lines without introducing soap opera effect to 24p films, but the LG is more prone to the odd glitch and artifacts in video-based material. On the other hand, Panasonic's 2018 OLED TVs, including the FZ952, still suffers from intermittent frame skipping in 4K HDR Blu-ray movies, such as in this opening credit from Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. The next topic I want to discuss is video processing, and there are many aspects to talk about. First is upscaling, and I'm going to divide it into standard definition and high definition. Realistically, I would like to think that not many people will be watching standard definition content on these OLED TVs, which really deserve native 4K material to make them shine. But if you still enjoy torturing yourself with ITV3 in SD, then you should know that the Panasonic will look slightly sharper, simply because overscan cannot be disabled with widescreen standard def videos on the LG E8. With 1080i broadcast, I didn't see any significant difference between the two in terms of sharpness and detail. Both televisions upscale equally well with all edge enhancement controls switched off. Natively, the Panasonic FZ952 or FZ950 handle heavily compressed broadcast content slightly better, exhibiting less polarization and macro blocking than the LG E8. However, you can engage MPEG noise reduction, which contains a decontouring filter on the LG to clean up these artifacts. And although this will also reduce some fine detail, in my opinion, you're already losing so much detail through the source compression anyway. Throwing away a little bit more shouldn't hurt that much. Going up the source quality ladder, we are going to cover HDR now. Peak brightness on Panasonic's and LG's OLED TVs range between 700 and 750 nits on a 10% window after calibrating to D65 white point. And Panasonic has relaxed the ABL or automatic brightness limiter on the company's 2018 OLED models to be as bright as LG's this year. As you can see from this self-altered test pattern containing a white circle that expands rapidly to eventually fill up the entire screen. With this in mind, any difference in real-world brightness of HDR content is going to be down to the manufacturer's adopted tone mapping strategy. Generally, for 1000 nit HDR movies, such as Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, the LG E8 and the Panasonic FZ952 are equally bright, color accurate and impactful. But for 4000 nit titles with bright specular highlights such as Batman vs Superman, the dynamic tone mapping on the LG OLED chooses to retain more bright highlight detail at the expense of average picture level or APL, so the overall luminance for this particular scene would look darker than the Panasonic. As I've explained before, there's still no established standard for tone mapping high-nit content to a display with lower peak brightness. So, as long as the television follows the PQ curve nit for nit at least until the SDR range of 100 nits, there's really no right and wrong what a manufacturer does after that, within reason of course. When we put up the scene from the 4K Blu-ray of The Martian, the Panasonic exhibited slightly less false contouring in the sky than the LG. You can enable MPEG noise reduction on the LG E8 to smooth out the posterization, but that will also scrub away some other fine detail, which isn't really ideal for such a pristine video source. Maybe for 2019 models, LG can consider separating the smooth gradation and noise reduction controls rather than lumping them together. I've talked about the HDR 24 frames per second frame skipping issue on Panasonic OLEDs earlier, but LG's 2018 OLEDs with Alpha 9 chipset, including the E8, also have their own problems. When there's a drastic change in APL or average picture level, both from dark to bright or from bright to dark, there will be a lag in the luminance catching up, resulting in a delayed dimming or delayed brightening effect. This is particularly obvious in non-cinemascope content such as in Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and many shows on Netflix where there's no top and bottom letterbox bars to lower the overall APL. The good news is LG is aware of this issue and is working on a fix, hopefully in a future firmware update. In terms of dynamic metadata HDR formats, the Panasonic FZ952 or FZ950 supports HDR10+, while the LG E8 supports Dolby Vision. But there's really no contest in terms of content availability at the time I filmed this video in November 2018. Dolby Vision wins hands down because it is available on 4K Blu-ray, Apple TV 4K box, Netflix and even Amazon Prime Video, whereas the first HDR10+ Ultra HD Blu-rays will only start arriving in December this year. When comparing Dolby Vision dynamic metadata on the LG E8 versus HDR10 static metadata on the Panasonic FZ952, Dolby Vision retains more specular highlights in bright scenes, for example, the sun and the cloud detail in Godless on Netflix, and present darker scenes with more shadow detail and less washed out blacks, such as in this dark sequence again from Godless. And that's the beauty of dynamic metadata. Rather than using one static tone curve for the entire movie, the tone curve can be optimized for each scene or even potentially each frame, allowing for accurate reproduction of creators' intent. I need to point out that the HDR luminance fluctuation issue also affects Dolby Vision content on the LG E8 too, as you can see from the camera cutting back and forth in this scene from Season 1 Episode 6 of The Punisher on Netflix. Hopefully, this will be fixed sooner rather than later. For playing games, input lag is responsively low on both TVs in game mode for both 1080p SDR and 4K HDR modes, 21 milliseconds on the LG E8 and 22 milliseconds on the Panasonic FZ952. And if you think you can tell the difference between 21 milliseconds and 22 milliseconds, I have a copy of Red Dead Redemption 2 with working HDR I'd like to sell you. For 4000 nit and even 10,000 nit HDR games, LG offers dynamic tone mapping technology in game mode too to brighten the picture, although I'm not sure how accurate it's going to be since I've never seen a true 4000 nit consumer TV, let alone a 10,000 nit one. Panasonic also offers a HDR brightness enhancer slider on the FZ952, but cranking up the value doesn't seem to increase the overall brightness by much. Right, let's sum up. The LG E8 and the Panasonic FZ952 are, along with the Sony AF9, the best OLED TVs on the market, and each of these TVs has its own strengths and weaknesses. Most accurate colors both out of the box and after calibration, the Panasonic. Best upscaling and handling of lower quality content, the Sony. Best HDR impact and Dolby Vision presentation, the LG. Which TV you end up buying depends on your individual requirement and what types of content you watch, and of course your budget. And I'm happy to inform you that the more affordable LG C8 will have similar picture quality to the E8, and the more affordable Panasonic FZ802 will have similar picture quality to the FZ952. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.